Molly, you have an alarm for your tutor.
Okay, guys, we'll wait a couple of minutes to see anybody else comes. Okay, so we're on Daf Gimel Aleph over here, right after the Mishnah, Rabbi Zira. So the Gemara here is talking about when and how an Eid Zomim becomes possible. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Zira, Hadar Mara. This teaches us, Eino Eid Zomim Eino Nifsal Bebeistin El Me'atzma Nifsal. Now, this Hadar Mara is really going on the Gemara Baba Kama. Baba Kama Daf Lamed Aleph in the Yerushalmi. The Gemara there talks about as the same exact sugya, except that there it's there are fewer mistakes in the Girsa than there are over here. But the Gemara there is talking about Geneva with Tficha Mechira, and that the Edom Zomim become puzzle for if they testified on the Tficha Mechira of the animal, that the animal was slaughtered or sold, and they became puzzle on that because they're Edom Zomim. They also become puzzle for the testimony on the Geneva, assuming it's the same, the testimony together. That's what we're going to discuss right now. So the Adamara has nothing to do with our Mishnah. This happens very often in the Yerushalmi. The Adamara goes on the Gemara in Baba Kama. Okay, that Mishnah we're talking about Ein Zomim, where Zomim on one part of a testimony are Zomim also on the other part of the testimony. That Mishnah teaches us that Amar Rabbi Zera Edo Zomim, Ein Zomim Edo Nifsal, but based in Elamei Atzmo Nifsal. That's a fascinating thing. Now, what does that mean? I mean, A comes to Basin, Adim Zomim called the Basin. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is that Basin now determines that this person is an Eid Zomim, in which case they would apostle the Eid Zomim retroactively from the time of his testimony on everything he said since that testimony. But the Yerushalmi are saying no. And Eid Zomim is Ein Nifsal Basin. Basin doesn't make him puzzle; he makes himself puzzle. What does that mean? So what is he puzzle for? Only for any testimony he testified at the time he was testifying his false testimony. In other words, anything that he said at the same time as his false testimony, that is not believed. But things which happen.
Rather, Hafer, ready.
Yes. Okay. But the testimony which he testified since then, he's not necessarily puzzled on. Okay, so that's what it says. Plus, AIDS, he messes himself up. And what's that?
Eitan texted that he can't hear.
Can't hear, but everybody else can hear, right?
Yeah, I can hear. I'm just relaying the message.
I could hear.
Is anybody else who can't hear? Kimmy, can you hear? Sneak, can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear.
I can hear.
Okay, Eitan, I'm sorry, I don't know what the problem is. You'll have to figure out your end because it's not here. So the Pasala Basroya, and he explained that it's Asroya. Now I quoted last week when I was discussing this that the Mechal Hamayim, the I got cut off actually when I was saying this. Mechal Hamayim, the parish of the Aruch HaShulchan on the Yerushalmi is the one who says that the Yerushalmi holds like what it says in the Bavli that Eid Zomim is not nifsal mafreya. It doesn't come puzzle on all the testimony which he testified from the time he testified the testimony on which is found in Eid Zomim till now, when Basin finds out that he's an Eid Zomim actually. No, he's puzzled on everything he testified then as part of that one testimony. And everything since then, he's kosher. And I think that has to do with the fact that Eid Zomim is Exeres HaKosov. Exeres HaKosov meaning that it's not, that we don't understand exactly why we believe the Eidim Hamazimim and not the Eidim Zomimim. Because it's 2 against 2. So why should we believe one of the groups over the other? So it's a very big chiddush that the Torah says, no, we're not going to believe the Eidim Zomer, we're going to believe the Eidim Hamazimin. So since that's the case, so therefore we only passel him as much as we have to passel them, which means for that testimony itself. And the Gemara says, pasula basroya, and here there's a word missing, which is in Baba Kama, which is basroya achas. Okay, so after you this word basroya, it should be basroya achas. And what it means is that when we Eidim come to testify, we warn them. We warn them, don't say false testimony. So anything the Eidim said in that one hasra, meaning in that one testimony, are not their puzzle. Since part of that testimony, they were puzzle the whole thing, and that's what we call in the Bavli Edu Shabbat, and we're going to call it Yerushalmi as well. Edu Shabbat Lamiktsasa Batla Kula. A testimony, part of which is negated, the entire thing is negated. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. The Tani came, continuing further. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Medvar Moim B'shtei Kitos Edios U'B'shtei Hasroyos. You have two groups of witnesses who testify at two separate times. There is no the psul doesn't extend from one to the other. Okay, because whatever it's whatever, even if they contradict, you have two witnesses who contradicted, two groups of witnesses who contradicted each other, right? They're believed at a different time to come separately and testify, but that's only because they're separate eduyos. Edus achas v'asrei achas to be one testimony, one group of witnesses, and one warning. Call edus shebatla miktsasa batla kula. Any edus which part of it is batel, all of it is batel. So in the case of Baba Kama, if the Eidim came and said that Reuven stole an animal, which is chayiv kefil, and then he slaughtered or sold it, which is chayiv another 2 or 3 payments, depending on whether it's a shor or a set. So if the Eidim is found puzzle on even the tvichol mechira, second part of their testimony, they're also puzzle on the gneva, and of course vice versa. Puzzle on the gneva, they're puzzle on the tvichol mechira, because that's all one edus. And it should but mitzasa but lakula. Part of the edus is batel, the entire edus is batel. Okay, so that's what it says here. Now, the Gemara says Mao. So this Mao, it seems, is not like a regular Mao. This Mao is actually an attack and an attempt to say that the psul is actually not like Rabbi Zira said, nifsa based miatzmo, but it's psul based. So the Gemara is going to now try and attack. The word Mao almost never, as far as I know, almost never appears as an attack. It usually as an asking for an explanation. But here it's an attack. It's saying, "Oh, Mao, what are you talking about? Mao, what do you mean?" And the attack is Mao Eidush Mao Kodesh Batla Miksasa Batla Kula. What do you mean any Eidush which is Batla Miksasa Batla Kula? What about the following case? Now here there are a lot of typos. In the Bava Kama, it's very different. They came and testified about him. Basora ben Nisan. Okay, so they came and testified on the 10th day of Nisan. Shagana Vesashor Be'echel ben Nisan. He stole an ox on the first day of Nisan. V'tavachu machar, and the tvicho mechira was, and here we changed the girsa to, and this is what the Gemara says about Makama. It should be biyud Nisan, Evahuzmu betesvav Nisan. So again, hayu omdim meidim labasar b'nishgaram zashor be'echel b'Nisan v'tavachu machar be'yud b'Nisan, that day where they came to testify. V'huzmu betesvav Nisan. So the Eidim, so Reuven and Shimon came to Basin and they testified that Levi stole an ox on the first day of Nisan, and he was Tabach HaMachar on the 10th day of Nisan. Now, on the 15th day of Nisan, Eidim came and said, Reuven and Shimon, you were with us. You could not have testified. You could have testified with this. So about this. So, so the kol edu she'idu, every testimony they testified, and here she changed it again according to Gemara Belkama. Miyud b'Nisan achamisha b'Nisan mafreim psulim. Every testimony they testified from Yud Nisan, which was the day that they came to Beis Din to testify, till Tesva of Nisan, which is the day in which the Eidim Mezimim came and said their Eidim Zomim. All that testimony is
Yerushalmi.
it's batel, it's possible. What do you mean? If you say Eid Zomim me'atzmo nifsal, that means you don't look backwards. It means it's only possible from now on, and from every testimony he testified at the same time. They testified at the same time, right? In other words, it's testified Geneva and Tficha Mechir together. But this Gemara is saying that that if you testified on Yud Nisan, and that testimony was found to be Eidim Zomemes and Tesvav Nisan, not just the testimony they testified in Yud Nisan is possible, but any testimony they testified between Yud and Tesvav is possible. That argues on what we said before. Before we said only that whatever they testified in between Yud and Tesvav, they're not possible. They're possible for Yud, for any testimony they testified together on Yud together with this testimony for Sheidim Zomim, and they're possible in Tesvav on, but not retroactively, not on the days between Yud and Tesvav. Here the Gemara says, Eid Zomim l'mafreyahu nifsal. The Eid Zomim is possible from the time he said his false testimony and on. So that argues on Rabbi Zira, right? So so the Gemara says again. Let's read inside again, the way the gears are supposed to be. Okay, so starting here. Malko Eidish Shabbat Mitzvot Sabbat Lakula. We only mean in love Basora Benisan. These are the Eidim Zomimim. They testified on the 10th day of Nisan. Shkonav as the Shor Bechel Ben Nisan, and he stole the shore on Echad Ben Nisan. The Tavach Machar Basora Ben Nisan, and Vicha Mechi was on 10th day of Nisan. For whose mu, and they found the Eidim Zomim Betesvav Nisan. I don't know if you have to change the Girsa, but it's easier to change the Girsa. Kol Eidu Shehedu. All testified Miyud Nisan Al Chamisha Asar Ben Nisan L'Mafrei L'Psulim. They're passed on all their testimony retroactively. Okay, so this sounds like it could go contradicts Rabbi Zira, because Rabbi Zira said it's not that the way. Eight doesn't come possible with Mafreya, and Rabbi Bar Memel says, you know what, I'm still going to hold like Rabbi Zira. I'm a Rabbi Bar Memel. Rabbi Memel tipater b'meidim alav b'krach echad v'leis shama min haklum. Says no. Really, the reason why they're apostles is because he says, I'm going to look Rabbi Zira. And it's talking about a case where they testified on the Geneva and on the Tvicha Mechira on the same day, even though they took place on different days. So even though the Geneva and Mechira took place on Aleph Nisan, and the Tvicha Mechira took place on Yud Nisan, since they testified on both of them on Yud Nisan, so they're apostle for both of them. So the Eid Zomim becomes puzzle, not and is only possible for that, and not possible for anything after that or anything before that, obviously, because it's only things they testified at the same time. So he comes, he says, you have no raya from here, right? Your assumption was that that's the case. You're wrong. It's very simple, right? It's kind of like the Gemara making an assumption. The Gemara doesn't have a Mishnah or Bryce it's trying to prove from. Gemara's making an assumption that they should become apostle from test Yud Nisan on. So it's more no. They don't. They're apostle on Yud Nisan, whatever they testify then, and then they become apostle after Tesvav, but not retroactively. Okay, so and that's Patabim Ila B'Krach Echad. In one bundle, they testified in everything. V'lei Shma Min Klum, and you can't derive anything from here. And the Gemara wants to bring a proof for that. The Tanike, we have a brayso like this. And the bright here it says min, and the says here min harishonim. Hayamin Arishonim. So it's supposed to be Hayu Hain Arishonim. Okay, so the it means that one group testified on this talking about a different case. The case is still going to about is years of chazaka. We have one group that testified on 3 years of chazaka. Right, you know, chazaka takes 3 years to establish chazaka, that I own a property. So they testified on year 1, then they came to testify year 2, and then they came to testify year 3. Okay. So they're all the same witnesses. They testified 3 different times on 3 different years. Right? Who's moved barishayna if they were muzam on the first year? The ein bikach plum. Then then there's none of the years count, right? Because it's the first year doesn't count, the second and third year counts. The b'shniya, what they found the aims on the second year, right? Harei hulo edus achas. So then they have 1 year, right? The first year before they become puzzle that you have. Vishlishis, they're found to be puzzle on the 3rd year. Hareulo kishtei eduyos. So then they had then they were not too far, no. Then you have two years. So we see here in Eid Zomim is not puzzle and mafreya. They are puzzle only on the year which they testified. If it happens to be the first year, so then the whole thing falls apart. Then the means that
Rebbe,
yes.
Rebbe, if they were found to be Zoman the first year, why don't we say that to apply all 3?
Then all 3 are puzzle.
Yeah.
We do. It's only they found puzzle the 3rd year that the first 2 still count. Of course, he has
okay.
to bring 8 in for the last year from somewhere else, right? If the
Okay.
first year falls apart,
Right.
the whole chazaka falls apart, right? But the first 2 years, if they testify in the second, if they found anything in the second year, the first year is still good, and they need the person who's there only has to find witnesses for the next 2 years, and that's why the 3rd year, the first 2 years are good, and the person who's there only has to find witnesses for the last year. Okay, so
Right.
So the Gemara says, V'ech yomar. How is it going to work here? Okay, right here. V'ech yomar. B'me'idim alav b'krach echad. If they're going to testify in one time, then leis shma min klum. You can't derive from this anything. In other words, then basically what it's saying is that it's not valid testimony, right? If they're meeting b'krach echad, it sounds like it's not going. They're not going to. They're not going to have any years. It's only if they came 1 year, then the second year, then the 3rd year. So when meeting b'krach echad, it sounds like it's not going to work at all. Well, it doesn't work unless there are many testimonies. So Rabbi Zira said, but based on nifsa. So this teaches us, like Rabbi Zira said previously, and Eid Zomim is not nifsa based in, but rather only on his own. Which again we said means he's not puzzle mafreya. He's only we can't puzzle him retroactively. You only puzzle him on any testimony he says together, right, with this testimony on which he's found to be Eid Zomim. So therefore, if it was one edus, they testified all 3 years at once, the whole thing will fall apart. But if they testified each year separately, so then the edus doesn't fall apart. I want to add something, which is, according to this, even if the first year falls, because they're found to be Eidim Zomim on the first year, if some other witnesses come and say, no, we're Eidim on the first year, so then the 2 other years that Eidim Zomim testified on, which they weren't found to be Eidim Zomim, will accept their Eidus. Here, the thing is that they were the ones who came in all 3 years. So if you come in, they're coming all 3 years, and the first year they're testifying on doesn't work, their testimony fails. We can't trust them on the next 2 years either, because the chazaka never started. Chazaka has to start, and then you get 3 years, right? First year, second year, third year. But the first year they're Eidim Zomim. That means there's nothing on which to build a chazaka. Let me explain a little bit more, which is chazaka means there was we assume there was a kinyan, that the field was acquired by the new guy from the old guy, and then he had to appeal for 3 years. But if you don't have the first year, so then everything falls apart, because that means there's nothing linking a kinyan 3 years ago, which you're claiming took place, with the years after year 1. There's a gap in the middle, right? So, but if you had other Eidim who came along and said, you know what, we're Eidim on the first year, which links the kinyan to the rest of the chazaka, so then these witnesses can come and be witnesses on the next 2 years, even though they found these Zomim on the first year. Okay, so the only Rabbi Zero says, why does that work? It only works if we say that Eidim Zomim don't become puzzle retroactively, meaning once they're puzzled on the first year, they're puzzled forever. No, Eidim Zomim only puzzle on any testimony they came and said in the same instance, the same time. So therefore, he's saying that if the Takit came on all 3 years at once, they'd be puzzled on all 3 years. But here they came on 1 year, second year, third year. And that's why we can accept their testimony on the years in which they weren't Eidim Zomim. Okay, so that's the raya that Eidim Zomim are not puzzled mafreya, meaning we don't puzzle them from the time we have a problem with them and onwards, retroactively. No, we only puzzle them from here on in, and meaning from the time that basically passed the Eidim Zomim, from now on they're not accepted. And they're not accepted on any testimony they testify together with the Eidos in which they became Eidim Zomim. Okay? I think you're going to have if you're going to have a similar sugya, and Makkos said you will have a similar sugya. Okay, so any questions before we go on to the next Mishnah? Okay, the next Mishnah is very long. We'll see how far we can get. Hopefully it won't cut us off early. Based on 2 or 3 witnesses, the dead person is put to death. If the testimony is sustained with 2 people, why say 3? In other words, just stop with 2. Why need 3? So it's to draw a link between 3 and 2. Just like 3 people come and they make Eidim Zomim out of 2. So 2 can make Eidim Zomim out of 3, and this is part of the exact class of Eidim Zomim. We don't really understand it, why it should be this way, right?
So, Rabbi,
Yes.
but in the Bible, it was the opposite way around, and that's the chiddush of it. But over here, why are we saying that 2 can be mazim 3? Like, why does that make sense?
Why not?
Because, like, in the other one, we were saying it's a chiddush, that, like, even if you're the lesser amount of the second.
Are you saying this mission is not the same in the Bible? I think it's the same in the Bible.
There seems to be the opposite in the Bible. I thought the Bible was that just like 3 can be mazim 2, so 2 can be mazim 3.
3 can mazim. Yeah, that's what we're saying here, right?
Oh, sorry.
Even 100, right? 2 can be made 100. Okay, Talmud Omer Eidim. And Shimon Omer, he says a different drasha. Mashkaim ain't an erogan like Shishush name Zomimim. Avshlosh ain't an erogan like Shishush Zomimim. You have to find the whole group Eidim Zomimim. If there are 2, then you have to find the whole group of 2. If there are 3, you have to find the whole group of 3. 9 afilu mea. How do you know if it's 100? You have to find the whole group of 100 zomimim. Tamul omer 80. No matter how many there are. Akiva omer lobo ashlishi elachmir olav lastos dino kayotzibelu. Some more an agada to drasha. He says we don't need a third person. The only reason the third person mentioned is to say that even though he's actually an extra, he's superfluous, nevertheless he gets the same punishment. So he said, "Lo shlishi elachmir lo v'asos dino kayotze." We give him the same halacha, ka'elu, as the first 2. In kasha kach onash hakosuf. If the pasuk gave such a punishment, l'nikpal over avera, the people who join with people committing avera, ke over avera, like the people who commit avera, lachas kama, much more so. Yishalem sachar. Hashem's going to give reward l'nikpal osei mitzvah. The people who join osei mitzvah, kosei mitzvah, as if they themselves doing the mitzvah. Mashnayim needs to echad karvo apostle edusam b'teila. Also, just like if you have 2 people, one of them is karvo apostle. The Eidos is Batel. One of them is a relative or a apostle for some other reason. The Eidos is Batel. Avshlosha, so to 3 people, even though one is extra, nevertheless, Nimtzacham Karov apostle, if one of them is found to be a Karov or apostle, the Eidos and the Eidos is nullified. Now, if you're male, even if one of the 100 is apostle, they're all apostle, Tamal Omer Eidim. This bus says Eidim. Omer Rabbi says, by Medvar Morim Bedini Foshos. When do I say that I apostle the whole group by Dinin Foshos? Avo Bedini Mominus, but if it's Dinin Mominus, Tiskayim Leidus Bashar. The test can take place with whoever's left. Whoever becomes puzzle, whoever's left is good. We keep the haters running on their basis. Rabbi Omer, no. Well, not no, but Omer Echadin Mominus Echadin Foshos. Both of the Dinin Foshos, Bismachi Hichu Bohem. They have to be linked by all being part of the same Asra. Otherwise, because Avo Bismach Loisu Bohem. But if they didn't all give Asra together, so what are you going to do with 2 brothers who saw a murder? You're going to say they're all apostle. Nobody can ever bring this murder to justice because 2 of the witnesses were brothers. So it's Nimsach Karb apostle. So Rebbe says no. It's only if they deliberately came together. They're all part of the same Hasra. So they're all part of the same group because they all participate in the same Asra. There was one Asra for the whole group. So then I say that they all are in this Karv apostle, the all apostle. Otherwise, I say no. Where the one brother can come together with another witness who was there and testify. He does. The fact there was a third person there was also his brother doesn't make a difference to us. Okay, so says the Gemara. Yomar din mamadus, val yomar din nefashos. Let it say this halacha by dine mamadus and not by dine fashos. So if you take a look back here in the Mishnah, it says al pishnaim edim or shloshah edim yumas hames. It says here on the side, tzarich lomar yokum davar. See that? I assume in the Bavli it actually says Yokum Davar. So so it says Yokum Davar, that's by Dine Mominus. It would say Yumas Hameis, that's by Dine Nefashos. So let it just say the case of Dine Mominus, which is Yokum Davar, and not say the case of Yumas Hameis. They do different psukim. Do I need to have both? So Yom Adin Mominus, Yom Adin Nefashos. Why do you need both? Again, there are 2 different psukim. One of them is Api Shnayim Eidim Oshlosha Eidim Yumas Hameis, Dinim Misa, Dinim Fashos, and the other is Api Shnayim Oshlosha Eidim Yokum Davar, so about Dinim Mominus. So tell me one and not the other. Why do you need to tell me both? So the Gemara says Yom Dinim Mas I Dinim Fashos. Says one, no, I can't. It doesn't work. Yom Dinim Mas I Dinim Fashos. Il Nem Dinim Mominus. The loan Emardin Foshos. If I just did say Dinamos and not the Foshos, Haisi Omer, I would say the Shadar so changed it from Dine to bidine. I'm not sure it's necessary to do that, but he changes it to bidine. I will isomer bidine moment as hakalim shlosha mezamimin es hashnayim ushnayim. And here is a major change. Ushnayim afil, instead of ein, he has vafilu. Vafilu mezamin es hashlosha. As I say, okay, by dinim mominus, since they're relatively, what the maximum penalty is a monetary penalty, so then I might say in that case, 2 people can be amazing, 3 people can amaze him 2, and even 2 people can amaze him 3. It's not, the ramification is not so deadly, right? So therefore, it's not a big deal. So now instead of the words minayin afilu, he takes out these words. He says these words minayin afilu, and he puts in instead din nefashos hachamurim. Maybe I should bring up the Shai Torah as well. Maybe that'd be a good idea to show it to you inside. It's a bit less confusing. I think I have it somewhere here. No. Here it is. Okay. I don't have the page before. That's unfortunate. Hold on a second. Oops. I'm gonna just pass it over there. Yeah. Okay, so this is where it is. Over here. Hayisi Omer, B'dini Momenes HaKalim Shloshim Zaminis HaShnayim, Shnayim Ein Zaminis HaShlosha, that's what we have. Tzarech Lomar, Ushnayim Zaminis HaShlosha, Va'afilu Meo. And even 2 could even Mezim 100. Dini Foshus HaChamurim, Shloshim Zimin Es HaShnayim, yes. Ve'en Shnayim Zimin Es HaShlosha. Maybe the 2 won't be Mezim Shlosha. Talmud Lomar Dini Foshus. As they have to have a separate puzzle by din nefashos. Now, I want to explain why that should be. We have a special din by din nefashos of v'tzilu ha'eda. V'tzilu ha'eda means you have to try and save the life, right? If you can't save a life, you have to try and save a life. Beis Din's supposed to bend over backwards to try and save the life of the person who's on trial. So I might say, had it not said by din nefashos, I'll be shnayim or shlosha edim, I would have said, you know what? By din mominus, where the stakes are not high, it doesn't say v'tzilu ha'eda. There are 2 people who amaze him 3, 3 people who amaze him 2, and even 2 people who amaze him 3, and even 2 people who amaze him 100. But by din and Foshos, I'm going to put a guy to death, even if you have only 2 witnesses being amazed him 100. Come on, I should give the guy benefit of the doubt. 98 more witnesses say he's innocent than 2 saying he's guilty. That's I need a person to tell me no. Too bad. You listen to the do Adim Zoimimim. Even though they're being amazed 100 witnesses. The Rambam says that the Xeris of Adim, listening to Adim, is like a nevuah. It's just like a nevuah. You have to listen to it. So to Adim, you have to listen to. And here it's saying, the bus is telling us, I'm telling Xeris I'm telling you, Listen to Eidim Hamazimim, even though only 2 against 100, even by Din Nefashos, even though the 100 says he's innocent, and the 2 say he's guilty. Okay, so as it says, the Gemara should say, Din Nefashos Chamur Shlosh V'Zim Esashnayim V'Ein V'Zim Esashlosha Tamalam Din Nefashos. Okay, what about the other way? Oilu Nemar Din Nefashos Lo Nemar Din Nefashos. And I would say Din Nefashos HaChamurim Shlosha Mezim Esashnayim U'Shnayim Mezim Esashlosha. 2 can do 3 can be Mezim 2, and 2 Mezim 3. Vafilu Mea, and even 100. Din Nefashos HaKalim, but Din Nefashos which are lighter, Shlosha Mezim Esashnayim V'Ein Shnayim Mezim Esashlosha. So I might say that Din Nefashos, because they are, we're going to lose. You know what? I think I'm going to come back to this part next time because I've less than a minute left. But well, you know, I'll go to so it stops me. Well, it's going to stop me in the middle. So again, the second part I'm saying here is by Haisim Adin Pashal Chamurim, Perush the Eidim Elu Shurotzu Arogas Hanepesh She'avera Chamura. Look at the other way. The Eidim are Rishoyim, very big Rishoyim. They're very big Rishoyim, so therefore, I would say Shlosha Mezim Esashnayim, U'Shnayim Mezim Esashlosha. Let's get these Eidim, they're so bad, people, even 2 against 3 should win out. Vafilu Mei, even 2 against 100. The Din Nefashos HaKalim, but the Din Nefashos, which are lighter, right? The Eidim are not as such bad people. All they want to do is cause the loss of the money. So I might say Shlosha Mezim Esashnayim, U'Shnayim Mezim Esashlosha. They're not so wicked. Don't be so harsh on them. That's why it says Din Nefashos also, the same principle applies. So he said again, there's a tzad to be more makel by Din Nefashos because of Itzilu Eida. There's a tzad to be more makel by Din Nefashos because they didn't commit such a big crime. They didn't